Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Jace.
Good evening, Shawn.
What is happening in your half of the city?
Uh, Not much. It's a little smoky still out here in my half of the city, but that's about it.
Gotcha. A little smoky in my kitchen tonight too. I was cooking some, literally cooking some smokies before I came on the air here tonight. So
Oh, there you go. That was
yeah.
us yesterday.
Okay, fair enough. In the air fryer though. I'm not like a grill man as you
See,
are
we
well
we
aware.
barbecued them like
Yeah.
real Canadians.
Yeah, so basically destroyed them. Got it. So we're here for episode 168. It's going to be a rather quick one, but a fun one and a good one. And we have a couple guests that are waiting in the wings. So we're going to power through all the housekeeping. And then, for better or for worse, you won't see us here in the studio basically till September after this. So I am going to be out of the house, and so no casts of any kind, but I will keep up on the Instagram just to let you know about my exploits, Legion related elsewhere in the world. But yeah, so get your fill tonight, and we'll hopefully give you guys a good show. So we'll talk a little bit about last week in Legion. AMG obviously was just at Gen Con as a host of other people and gaming companies were. So we're going to talk mostly about that, even though neither Jace or I were there. But rest assured, we'll have you some live feedback from the event. Studio break, as I said, just for the month of August here remaining. Talk a little bit about how I'll keep up to date and what will be hitting the stream waves when we get back in September. And then we'll talk a little bit more about Gen Con in terms of boots on the ground kind of thing. So Gen Con related tonight for sure, but let's before we jump too far down the track, let's hit Jace up for his last week or last week in Legion / gaming specifically. What was going on with you, Jace?
You bet. So my last week of Legion, we had actually got a Friday night fight in that week, which was nice. That's the
I got the
only
highlights queued
Legion
up for
game
that.
I played.
Yep, fair
Yep,
enough.
only Legion game I played. I did play I did play a game of Lord of the Rings.
Cool,
Um,
cool.
and I was able to actually build some models. I haven't built any Legion models yet, but I've been slowly working on collecting enough Ewok boxes. But
Okay.
man, are those things expensive.
Yes, yeah, they're not cheap for sure. I have four staring
No.
at me in the face over there. So, what are you working on right now, Jace? What are you building?
I am currently assembling a smattering of Dead Marsh Spectres and some. Oh, that wasn't good. And then I've got my Frodo Salmon Golem that I've
Okay,
been putting together.
cool. My last week in Legion, I played a couple Invader League games with a Tempest list, and I'm starting to find a lot of holes in Tempest, mostly in preserving MOV. It tends to lose in MOV games more often than not. A lot of people not able to kill the ATSTs, but just kill everything about it and manage the MOV game. So I think it's really fun. I think it's good for maybe 3-round tournaments. I'm not sure how deep I'm gonna take it into a 6-round tournament. So I've also been building and testing out some remnants. So I think I'm switching back to remnant because I think remnant is just more well-rounded. And then I didn't play any league games, although I need to, and talk a little bit about league. Needs to wrap up by the end of the month. So when I get back, we won't have any streams, but I will try to get some league games in. So that will be that's basically my week in Legion. I didn't do a lot of Legion related stuff. I did work quite a bit in the studio. I also built a tree fort in the back, basically treehouse playhouse. That was the majority of my modeling. Live, like 1-to-1 scale modeling, took a lot more days than I wanted it to. And then I did finish up all my remnant, all my scouts, and a bunch of more stormtroopers. So I was pretty successful on the model building here in the last week. I did not assemble any Ewoks, although I have them. And then my next project is going to be getting, I think, my LAT, my GAV, and my ATST, although I might be just sending those off to get painted, but I do need to add some extra vehicles to the list, and I think that's what's next up for me. So we're going to jump over here real quick to hit the social medias, if Jace wants to hit those for me.
You bet. So you're watching us here on YouTube, but also check us out on Facebook, Star Wars Legion Friday Night Fights, Twitter and Instagram at Legion_FNF. Sorry, is that the correct? Did the Instagram handle change?
I changed the Instagram handle just because I
Uh,
actually have been managing the Terrain Studio one way more. So I'll
okay.
try to get
So
people to
also
pull it
check
over.
out the
Yes,
Train Studio on Instagram, and
much more
then of
active.
course check out Yes, much more active. And check out the Patreon, which is also the Terrain Studio.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been really pushing the Instagram the last little bit here, a bunch of reels, etc. I was surprised like the reels are getting like 2,000 views in like 24 hours. I didn't even know that was a thing. So Instagram seems to be really really uptaking the Legion content. So I'll continue to do that. I was doing a lot of Terrain Studio stuff on there, but I'll do both. Obviously, they're intricately related. So we'll continue to push that out, and I'll probably be cataloging my exploits when I leave the studio on the Instagram account. So if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, that's where you're going to be able to find it. So on the topic of Friday night fights, we did have one just this last Friday. I'll let Jace talk a little bit about it. If you didn't go see it, you still can. Obviously, it's up there. And it was an interesting game. Again, Tempest out on the table. And Tempest in good matchups is a good list. It's really dependent on a lot of things that I think that's probably how Tempest will be, and maybe Ewoks to a certain extent. But I also wanted to highlight too that the camera pledge is going very, very well. The camera we're looking at is the newest one just released, and so we decided that we're just going to wait till that comes out. It's like out in another week. And it's going to be probably a little bit less than the other one. And so we have added a secondary item that we're going to use within the same goal, and that's going to be some Rode Go mics for the players. And then obviously any live streaming we do, it's going to be definitely awesome because they will be wireless mics and we won't have to deal with any cables and or cords, which will be fantastic. So we're going to roll that in. We're not adjusting the pledge, but we will obviously add more gear. So if you were a supporter of us up to this point, thank you very much. You got your name on the big board. And if you're a patron, past or present, you are here. Shout outs to our newest patrons, which are Dark Slider and J-Rod, joined sometime early last week. So shout outs to all of them. And like I said, anyone who's helped us get this far. Jace, people won't have a chance to see any Friday night fights for at least a couple weeks, but why don't you give them some teasers so they can go check out last week's episode?
Yeah, definitely. So, as we said, we won't have one for a while, but if you want to go see some good old Tempest Force with double ATSD triple bike flavor, taking on some good old droids, go back and watch last week's fight. It was pretty fun. This isn't the normal Tempest Force I run. I usually like to play triple ATSDs, but that's what Tempest Force is to me. But the bikes variant is probably the more competitive and better version. It was a pretty fun game. We ended up with payload on this nice city map. So ATSDs were just walking around, shooting out droids. It was a pretty big bloodbath that basically come down to who could kill more, Maul versus the rest of my army, or my ATSDs versus Maul.
Yep, I actually learned something about payload that I was not, I guess I wasn't familiar with, or just maybe misremembered. But the payload carts actually can push directly through the ATSDs. In one of my games, I actually went around and actually ended up falling short of the payload. Well, it was a tie game, but I could have pushed for the range one very early on, and I ended up taking a route around my ATSD, not knowing that I could go through. So it's not blocked by anything, so which is interesting. So. Well, anything short of anything higher than it, but vehicles don't count for the height. So, yeah, I learned that in this. Well, I learned it before this, but it's valid and interesting to note that. So, same thing with speeder bikes. Anthony learned speeder bikes can go directly over ATSTs because they don't have a relative height to height measurements, so they can move through. Repulsors can move through any ground vehicle of any height, which is kind of cool. So. So go check that one out. It probably will be, I think September 1, I think falls on a Friday. So we'll probably be back right at the start of September. So, but there is 92 episodes that you guys can go check out in the meantime. So there's just a quick shout out that will be on a break till September. That'll include the podcast as well as the Friday night fights. But you guys can go find plenty of other content out there in those weeks. And like I said, we'll update the social media so you guys can keep track of things like that. I'm going to be at a tournament, and so I'll have some reports. I'll try to take some video to actually use that when I get back as well. So Patreon, if you want to keep up with that, I will be probably just posting photos because I won't be working in studio, but I have done a bunch of work ahead of time, including working on the Shire project. This is actually inside the Hobbit hole. This is incredibly small. This makes it look like it's way bigger than it is, but when you guys get to see this to true scale, it's only about 6 inches long and about 4 inches wide. That's the interior looking through the end cap. So I talked a little bit about that on the latest video, and I'll have much more on this. In addition to this photo here, I also was working on a floor, and so This floor right here is just a side by side. That's the interior of the next room. Each of these pieces of wood I actually cut by hand, and then I put each of them in individually. I won't tell you how many there, but there's a lot. And then on the other side, you can kind of see what that looks like at a much more magnified image. But the idea is supposed to look like a herringbone floor, which is inside the Shire. Inside Bag End, I should say. So that is what I've been working on in the studio. That's just one small part of the project. If you guys have been tracking, it's a much larger scale than this. Ben is in chat saying that it's super late, but maybe I'll get my Adepticon 2023 video done and post it while you're on break. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, there was a thing already planning for Adepticon 2023. So let's jump over to the news, and we'll hit this real quick, and then I'll talk a little bit about something that I forgot to mention in last week in Legion. Just a shout out to one of our Friday Night Fight crew, and then we'll get in with the rest of the show. All right, so this news is brought to you by Pally. He's confirmed to be activation padding with new list builds. So in our Discord today, I saw 15 activation lists. So he's now act padding. So AMG is dropped on Twitter this is like an hour ago, probably about 4 or 5 hours ago now, because I grabbed this earlier this afternoon. They, like many people, are taking a break. Obviously, recovering from Gen Con, that's to be expected. I'm sure they were flat out for the weekend, so no live stream coming for them until next week. Doesn't say what date, but we're also expecting to get the website sometime in August, as was indicated by that previous news. I mean, that's what it said before, so I'm still holding that August will be the month. So that will be big news when it drops. So speaking of events, I know we talked about Nova and the Golden Gate event, and then LSO. There is some other ones that just hit here, so let's just talk a little bit about this one. This one's on our side of the border, so St. Laurent Open happening. This is going to be, again, a Legion, X-Wing, and Armada. It is happening on, I don't have the date here. I think it's happening in Montreal, but I don't see the date on this one. That'll have to confirm for you. But I have seen it on some of the Canadian Legion pages as well as X-Wing pages, and very, very exciting. I know that the East Coast was talking about heading up there. So if you were in the area of Montreal, Ontario, or even the East Coast, this one might be for you. And then we also saw on August 1st, they dropped the Starfighters, obviously in Italy. No date again on this one. We'll confirm that as they post those date up. But again, more and more events happening. And I'm not sure if this was the one that I heard in the LSO stream, but there's some Italian Legion event that I think was like 132 players. I'm not sure if this one's that one. But the fact that we're having like 130 plus Legion tournaments is awesome. So, and I imagine that their X-Wing and Armada probably press equal numbers. So Armada seems to be really big on the European side of the world. So as indicated at Adepticon, I was very surprised how many Armada players I saw there. So I did not know that was a thing. We have no Armada players in our local scene. I'm not sure if you've ever seen a game of Armada played at any store, Jace, ever in Saskatchewan.
I used to back.
Okay, fair enough. I've never seen
like
it played.
2016, no, more like 2014 to like 17 or 18. There was a pretty big Armada group, and then they just died.
So when Jace was at the store with his mom, he saw a game of Armada being played because he literally wasn't even allowed out of the house on it's 2014. It's crazy. All right, fair enough. Interesting Gen Con news, and sad face for me for one, not being able to go, but two, or deciding not to go, I should say. And two, potentially missing out on this. But shout outs to my good friend, Chris Kerr, who was there and who waited and got it like immediately after they opened for me. So I will have one of these heading to the studio, which is fantastic. It's not going to be given away. It's going to be for me. It's going to go in the case. I'm sure Big Jace will have fun painting that. But yeah, so shout outs to Chris for putting in the time. I know other people had line holders. And I've seen a few already on the eBays and out in the world, but if you got a chance to get one and you wanted one for you, fantastic. And I don't know how exclusive, I'm not sure what the numbers were. I think they did have it quoted out per day, but hopefully everyone who wanted one got one. And yeah, definitely a very, very cool model. I like it a lot. And then this is the other content that is in there. So some alt arts and unit cards here. Not sure if the backside of those is alt, but I think it is. So yeah, if you're a Vader player, no, it's not, Ben. Not the backside of the unit cards, not. Oh yes, sorry, it is. Okay, gotcha. Okay, fair enough. Ben's now confirming. So yeah, so obviously for some people the cards may be the most interesting. People love those alt arts for sure. But for me, the sculpt was very very cool. I like the little Dio piece as well. And I saw the one the Obi-Wan one. I think that's is that a Shatterpoint one? The one they have with the Obi and Vader squaring off. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's a
I saw
Shatterpoint
that
one.
I saw that one when I was in Winnipeg, and that one also looks exceptionally cool. Wrong game, but look really cool. So I like those diorama pieces. If that's something AMG continues to do, I will think that's pretty cool. So, and I think a lot of people will as well. So, all right, so we're almost set for our guests. I said we get in there. Oh, I did say under 20 minutes. Look at me go. But I did want to just to give a quick shout outs because I've been in talks with a whole bunch of folks who have helped us out along the way and some potential new onboards for studio help. But I just wanted to give a shout out because we're not going to be here for a few weeks. But just a shout out to all the sponsors that we have. War Scenery is just launching. I saw some Kickstarter pictures coming out today, and I know we don't have anything in studio, but we do have that partnership in the works. And so go check them out for sure. Corvus Terrain, we just had Corvus Games Terrain. We just had the train on the table on Friday, and it's next sort of up in the queue to get painted. So shout outs to them. Deep Cut Studios, obviously, every week supplying us with the mats that we use, which is fantastic. We play in the terrain studio, so no big shout out needed there. But Imperial Terrain, Legion Terrain, again, supplying us with either pre-paints or printed models. But we don't have to do a lot of work. The stuff just shows up. It's game ready, table ready. We get it on there. We want to thank those guys for sure. And of course, we got some more things hopefully in the works for all of them. Gamers Grass just sent me another care package. I showed that to you guys. That'll be some Christmas giveaway stuff for sure. And the Hobbit table is going to just feature Gamers Grass stuff everywhere. So stay tuned on that. It's amazing. And big shout outs to them for helping me out with the Remnant project that I just finished up, the Imperial Remnants. And then, of course, Bryant and Aaron, both down in Australia. So Phoenix Games Australia and then Back to Basics respectively. So helping us out with the acrylic stuff. Brian, a big contributor for our Christmas giveaway this year with multiple battle forces, which is fantastic. So go check him out as well, Phoenix Games Australia. And then War on Game Studios for our music that we have on the intro, and hopefully we'll be adding some more music to the lineup as well. So that is a shout out to all the sponsors, and I thought that would be fitting as we went into the tail end of the summer here. Quick jump back before we get to our guests. Jace, we got to say congratulations to our guy, Anthony, who's got a Worlds invite. So Anthony, congratulations. He won a Worlds invite at a tournament that Jason and I weren't able to attend based on cap. So there wasn't any room for us to compete, but we would have been there if we could have. But we did not register in time, so it filled up, and Anthony was there. Anthony borrowed some models, so I'm going to claim partially the win. But he went up and was able to secure that. So now I have a travel buddy for Worlds, which is great. I think we're going to go by land this year. So Anthony's traveled with me once by air to the United States and now is willing to travel to the United States potentially by land. And if that doesn't work out too well, maybe 2024 or 2025 we'll go by boat and see which mode of transportation I'm able to gain access to the United States by ease. So we'll see. We're going to try by land this year. So pretty excited about that. Jace, sadly, he can't go because the tax season in Canada won't move for Worlds, which is kind of weird. But
unfortunately,
if we could just get that just shifted, he'd be able to go. But nonetheless, we'll be at some more events. Jace will be with us, and he'll definitely be a good practice partner for myself and Anthony as we gear up for Worlds this year. So shout outs to Anthony. So. Jace will go and play Malifaux. That's fair. It's actually pronounced Malifaux. Malifaux.
I have never played that before.
Well, you could be the next world champion. Who knows? Like I'm currently ranked number 3 for Blood and Plunder in the world. So, and I've only played one demo game. So there's that too. So, all right. Well, I see Ben's already fallen over in his chair down there. So let's not waste all our good material when he's just waiting in the wings and nobody can see him. So. If Ben and Paul, if you guys give me the thumbs up, I'll get you in here. So, and then let me just preface this, folks. Avert your eyes because I wanted to treat the Dice Time guys to some of their own home brew. So I spiced up Friday Night Fights, the podcast here, so that they would feel really at home. So let's get them in here. So avert your eyes, children. We're we're quite bright. So I'm actually gonna I'm gonna go this mode because we've now got retro.
So good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
There we
welcome
go.
Ben and Paul from
Ooh.
Dice Time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
It looks like a very dice time up in here.
I worked pretty hard on the screen. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, how are we doing tonight?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
How are we all doing tonight in chat? Good. I love. I think we're gonna have to. I know it's our colors, but I think we're gonna have to steal this look at some point because I am loving the sunset gradient for the call and the menu and the buttons and it just looks. It looks so good.
I mean, I took your logo and I extrapolated it out as best I could to encapsulate all of this, while not losing the look and feel of Friday Night Fights and/or the Train Studio.
It looks great.
Yep. So
it's the perfect combo.
Yeah, I like it. At first, I was like, it's a little bright, but
Paul, you're muted.
yeah, it grows on you for sure.
Oh, there he is.
okay, so what we're gonna do tonight, if we can, we're gonna let you guys take us through all things that are Gen Con related here. I got some sort of talking points up here. You can hit on them as you wish, but if you want to sort of go off on tangents, that's perfectly fine. Mostly, I'm interested in having people hear about the sights and the sounds, what you took in, what was your sort of I guess your must go to items, the things you signed up for. Obviously, were on that list. Maybe some things that you saw that you didn't necessarily sign up for or were surprised by. Any highlights for you, whether game related and or just con related, and then any tips for future goees or people maybe who are considering going and aren't necessarily over that cusp. But if you want to give them the shove in the right direction and say, hey, Gen Con should be on your list, then we'll gladly take that information as well. So, and Jason and I basically just take a back seat and let you guys have a dice time.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say Gen Con was very Gen Con this year, which is a good thing. That's a compliment because it is by far my favorite convention of any convention. It is the one that I look forward to every year. It is the one that I dedicate myself to and my time and my wallet to going to every year. And if you haven't gone, definitely need to go and make the trek at some point. You hear everybody talk about all the awesome sights and sounds that they have, at the event when there's a million things to do. And I'm almost not exaggerating when I say that number. There is, you couldn't get a solid fraction of the number of events going in your schedule. There is literally too much happening. You and some other guy could go to Gen Con and you would have two completely different experiences if you guys were in different circles. There's so much going on. Paul and I never even almost saw each other.
Yeah, it took us a bit to meet up, didn't it? There's just a ton.
We had so much going on.
There's a ton going on at Gen Con, and like you said, we spent the first couple of days going in different directions and didn't even see each other until like the tail end of one of those days. So, yeah, there's so many people there. I mean, I think the rumor that I heard it was up to about 80,000 this year. So, it's a lot of people in really a small space when you think about that large amount of people. But but there's just so much going on. The vendor hall is always packed. I always go just to like kind of see the spectacle, like Ben's talking about, of Gen Con. There's just so many people. There's so many games. There's so much new coming out. There's a lot of people who have agendas of like, I have to see this game. I just enjoy going and seeing what I run into, and I usually have a couple of smaller events. I usually don't go to play like a game like Legion or anything like that, because it takes up a full day of playing. I usually save that for conventions more like Adepticon, where I can devote a whole day to gaming and I don't feel like I'm missing as much because there's not as many vendors there and things like that. So Yeah, I just try to go and take it all in, and I agree with Ben. If you have the opportunity, I would definitely recommend going and just kind of taking it all in. I would recommend trying to keep your schedule relatively light if you go. At least give yourself a day to go through the vendor hall, because it does take a full day to go through the vendor hall. There is so many different booths that you can go and see there, and if you just want to walk around and see, like it's right there connected to Lucas Oil Stadium, so it's fun to walk over there and be right there on the football field and just see
Unless
that from
you're
that
late.
perspective.
Unless you're late
Yeah.
for an event,
Then you
it's
gotta
not
run.
fun to walk to the. Then it's not fun. Well, that's what happened to me on Thursday because I booked an event right after Legion would end, and last year it was like a throwing distance away from the Legion tables, so I thought that they were doing that again this year. Turns out no, it was in Lucas Oil. So at the end of my, or like 3/4 through my game, I was like, oh god, the event is starting and it's not right behind me, it's in Lucas Oil, so I've got to go. And that was the worst part of my trip, was grabbing all of my Legion stuff and running from the exhibit hall to Lucas Oil pretty much almost nonstop. And it was bad.
So I kind of wanted to know too, because you've sort of touched on it a little bit, Paul, in terms of having a few things that you put on your agenda, and then Ben obviously had multiple things stacked on top of each other. For folks that didn't know, I was also planning to attend, and I just changed my plans last minute because now I booked another trip on top of that. But I had my days booked, like I had Legion all day Thursday, dedicated day to that. On Friday, I put like 4 intro. I was gonna try like Kill Team intro to. I think I had a Blood Bowl, just one-off like little hour demos. And then I was going to spend the bulk of the balance, I should say, in the vendor hall. That Saturday, I booked a couple smaller, again, demo events, but was going to spend some time in the vendor hall Saturday. And then Sunday, if luck had it, I would be playing Legion again. And if I didn't, that I would find some things to do. Now, this was a complete polar opposite of year one when I went to Gen Con. Year one, I went to Gen Con, Legion was out, but I was playing X-Wing. I played X-Wing side event, followed by an X-Wing side event, followed by X-Wing main event. Advanced to day 2, played that for the full day, and I actually ended up on the day 3 because I went like top 8 of that 256-man tournament that was happening there, and all I did was X-Wing the entire time, and booked some tables to build for FFG. So that was a side bonus to that. But all I did was play X-Wing for my first Gen Con, and I barely got into the vendor hall. The next year I booked some more time, but a little less on the event side, so I can get into the vendor hall, but maybe not as much. And then this year I was like, I'm doing 1 day of gaming, some demos, and if I don't make them, I'm good to cancel. And then like just a little bit more of a trickle. And I was like trying to freewheel. It sounds like that's what you did, Paul. And I'm not saying that you didn't, Ben. You just basically had events back on back. But what did you guys book? What was your things that you needed to do or wanted to do that were your highlights?
Yeah, it's interesting because Ben and I had, for the past couple of years, did some events together. We did like some of the Funkoverse events, and this year we didn't communicate as well as we did previous years on what we were doing, and
Man,
so
if
we
only
both
we
kind
had
of went in
means of communication. Like,
Whoa.
If
If
only.
only it wasn't so difficult. My pony got injured, and yeah. So we ended up going in some different directions, but we did have a couple events that we had signed up together. A lot of the events that I feel like Ben and I sign up for, other than I know Ben has a day that he always plays Legion, right, for Gen Con. Typically, I feel like our events are shorter ones, so we can get multiple in. So like the Funkoverse ones, or any game by Funko is a little bit shorter. So we had done those in the past. I have some friends that I go with that sign up for Star Realms and Hero Realms. It's a little quick heads up card game, and we always do little events for those, and they take about 4 hours to play in, so I can just play in one of those and it's not my entire day. And this year, Ben has been hyping up, and we played it at Adepticon, this little miniatures game called Zinvaded. And
Oh
so
yes,
I
I know
wanted
it's
to,
invaded.
yeah, so I
Oh
wanted
yeah, we
to,
played. Shawn played it at Adepticon too.
yeah, so I wanted to get and play in an event there, and so they had 2 events that were only like a couple hours long a piece, and so I signed up for both of them because I wanted to just give it a go. And yeah, the guys who are the designers and people who runs Invaded were all super nice. Everybody in that community was super nice. We had a great time. Signed up for me, it was like a $4 event, and they gave you a free model, like just for coming and playing. So it was like it was worth it just for the model, let alone to go and play a game and have some fun with some people. So that's what I try to do in Gen Con, is sign up for some of the smaller events. So I signed up for that Star Realms one day, Hero Realms one day, the 2's Invaded events, and that was it. I left the rest of my schedule open because I knew, one, I wanted to go shopping and just like kind of look around. And 2, I had been working on, I have a 3D printer, and so I'm starting to work on costumes like for my kids, and then my
nice.
wife, I was working on a costume for her, so for like Halloween and things like that. So maybe I can post some pictures somewhere of it. It's in the works still, it's definitely a work in progress, but I was working on a Bo-Katan costume for my wife, and so she got to wear that and take some pictures. We found a Mandalorian person who dressed up as a Mandalorian that she got a picture with, and someone dressed as Ahsoka that we got a picture with. So it was cool to just run into people like that. And then my daughter, I worked on a armorer costume for her. So we had fun as a family, working on those costumes and painting them, and getting little fur to put on my daughter's shoulders for like the little cloak and stuff like that, and going to the thrift stores to find belts and things. So we just had a good time as a family getting ready to do some of that. So I also made sure I had some open time to just hang out with them and walk around and take pictures and see those kinds of things. So it was a good time for sure.
Cool. That actually might be on the docket next year for us. Like Zuri will be, well, by the time it comes around, she'll be like 5.5, so she might be able to make the trek and look around. And so and my wife generally does nothing gaming related at all, except tags along sometimes to things. So I'm just it might be something that there might be enough there to see and do, as opposed to like. She's been a lot to ETCs, but that's like straight gaming for like 4 days. There's nothing to look at except for sweaty gamers. So,
and there are a lot in the vendor hall. There are a lot of kids games and booths that have kid specific stuff. One of the games that I specifically went to go get here at Gen Con was Snap Ships. They came out with like a toy line of the ships that like are really like a kid friendly toy, but now they actually have the game out as well. It's kind of like I would say like an X-Wing esque type game that goes along with it, but my kids love just sitting there and building the snap ships, and so they did that. There's also a table that I always like to take my kids to, and like when I bring my niece and nephew who live close by, the Warhammer area has a big table that just has people just dump all their extra pieces there, and you can just come and take and build whatever you want. So I just take my kids there and let them cut up and clip and build models out of whatever's there, and they always have a good time and take stuff home from there. So there's a lot of things that you can do that you don't have to sign up for special events, and there's a lot of people who are willing to give kids some specials. Like my kids were just handed like promos for games, and we got a plushie from someone who just randomly gave it to my daughter while we were walking by. So
nice.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff to do for kids, and people enjoy that. I know, people in costumes are always, we're always giving my kids like fist bumps and waves and taking pictures and stuff with them. So they enjoy that. It was a good time for sure.
Very, very cool. Hey, Ben, before you jump in, because I want to just not lose this Snapship reference here, and then Shawn's got a question, so I'll pose that, and maybe, Ben, you can answer it in your sort of highlight. But on the topic of Snapship, so when we were at Adepticon, there was like a sort of a bin or table laid out of all the pieces. I actually said to Justice, who was with us, that, hey, these would be cool for your children as well. They like Legos, and he was trying to get them into sort of playing games, and I was like, hey, these are kind of like Lego but ships, but a game. And then ironically, I was actually at the dollar store today, and the dollar store in Canada, I'm putting this on here, actually had this, Paul. Actually had a snap ship box at the dollar store for $5. And so Christian, who you know and Ben knows and Jace knows, actually just, I think they have a new Kickstarter running, or you could buy into the Kickstarter. Anyway, he did, and I was like, we were just talking about this a couple days ago. But yeah, $5. They only had this one that was there, and he said it doesn't come with cards, but he's like, these would be great for parts. So but here's the thing, I showed Zuri this today, and she's like, nah, Dad, and we went straight to the My Little Pony. But I tried as a father. But the point being is that I saw snap ships at the dollar store, which is cool, because this is like, we're finding more and more game stuff ending up in mainstream stuff. Sometimes Walmart will have like Legion and things like that. Not our Walmarts, but and like Barnes and Noble and things like that. But anyway, it's a weird, because I just saw this today, Paul, and you mentioned snap ships, and I was like, oh, cool. And J Rod's actually
awesome.
in chat. Which, fair enough. There we go.
Got a bunch right here.
I might just go back and get this anyways, and just try to. I might just play with it and then convince my daughter, be like, "No, these are my toys. You can't play with them." And then if she's interested, then I'll sort of mind sweep her into that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
They designed it as a toy line first, and then created a game afterwards. So if you find them places for cheap like that, it's great. And then if you want to get in the game, it's like, I want to say it's like a $15 card pack or something, and you get the cards that you need for the ships and stuff. So yeah,
cool.
My kids really enjoyed playing with them. So if people have younger kids, I have a 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old, and then an 8-year-old, and they both sat there and built them for 2 hours while I was playing in one of those invaded events, and just loved it, and were flying around with their ships. So
nice. Very, very cool. All right, Ben, well, give us your sort of roster of things, and then if you want, can you answer Shawn's question? He's just asking if there's a hotel still connected to the convention as well. So
I did write in there that yes, there is, but good luck getting them.
Okay.
Because they are, first off, they're stupid expensive, and then second off, even if you have the money to shell out for them, sometimes drama like this year can happen where like a whole hotel's worth of people basically got kicked out of their reservations.
Do tell. Sounds like a juicy story.
Well, yeah, I wish I had all the details for it, but I was gonna say I just know.
We'll just leak half truths here. This is the internet. It's fine. Just flood us with
just make it up.
It's not my job to tell news or anything and be right. But there were a bunch of people in the Fans of Gen Con Facebook group, which is a great resource if you're planning to go or attending, and you just want to talk with other people who have gone for several years and stay up to date with news about the convention. But there were a ton of people in that group who were all talking about their hotel reservations getting canceled. So they had to figure out new places to go, It honestly worked out for me that we messed up and didn't book a hotel until very, very late in the game, because we normally get there's a hotel that we'll normally get that's pretty cheap and is like 5 minutes away from the convention, and we're totally okay with that drive for the price. And it's a hotel where we don't totally feel like we're going to get stabbed, because we've stayed at one of those, and we will never go back. But this one, we're like, okay, I feel like we could get from our car to our room without getting stabbed, so good enough.
That's the bar. That's the threshold that Ben...
Yeah, no, that's the bar.
Minimum.
If I don't feel like... Right. If I don't feel like I can get from my car to my room without getting stabbed, no. If I just barely feel like I can make it from exactly to the room, from the car to the room, and back again without getting stabbed, we're good. Good enough. Okay. But, we didn't book that this year, and they filled up. And so we had to stay in Martinsville, which was 40 minutes south of Indy, which was not ideal. So we had the early mornings and the late nights, and then we had the 40-minute drive to look forward to, which was terrible. But, c'est la vie.
So from what I...
Go ahead, Paul.
What I heard about the debacle with the hotel rooms is that if you're going to get a hotel room, you actually need to get it through the hotel portal that Gen Con gives you, you know, like a number, and you can go through the portal and try to like reserve through that block. What I heard is the people who got kicked out were people who reserved theirs through websites like, you know, Kayak or, you know, those travel
Expedia
sites.
or something like that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and
Yeah.
so they like booked all their hotels through there, and then the hotels didn't honor those requests because they already had all the rooms blocked out for Gen
For the
Con.
portal. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
for the portal. So that's what
That's-
I heard was
that's
the
not good.
issue. Yeah, so a bunch of people showed up who had booked all of theirs through like, you know, the Expedias and Kayaks and whatever, and then just didn't have
Wow.
rooms anymore. And so there were a
That's,
lot of people
that's-
who were
that
just
feels dirty.
scrambling. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Hey, well, so maybe I'll just interject real quick again, Ben. Sorry, I don't want to miss these segues, but
You're good. You're good.
it's related to Gen Con, and we are part of this as tips for future. So I thought this would be relevant. But
Yeah.
so I booked my trip. I had my hotel booked several months out from my airline ticket. I waited on my airline ticket because I'm always trying to gamble on prices there. So.
Sure.
Now I booked my ticket, and one thing I did not realize was that where my hotel was 16. I think it was 9 miles from the convention center, and I was just going to Uber because I didn't have a vehicle, so I was okay with that. I was paying about $200-ish a night, and I booked several months out, and still paying a lot of money. And for me by myself, that was still a lot. For the amount of time I was going to use it, it was still a lot. What I didn't realize, though, was actually 50 minutes from the airport. So when I was looking at that, my wife and I were like, "Whoa, that's pretty far. If I'm gonna have to Uber, it's probably gonna be almost the equivalent of like a night's stay by the time I Uber both ways." So what I ended up doing was, this was about 2 weeks out, or maybe 3 weeks out. I decided to change my hotel, and I actually found a closer hotel for about the same. And I added one more night because Legion was going to go later in the day. And so I was like, I was cutting it close on the Sunday. And if I made it on Sunday, obviously that was the reason I was going to go. I didn't want to cut it close. So I booked like Adepticon. I booked an extra stay. So now I was up in like basically $200 a night for the 6 nights: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the Monday. So, that was fine. I was all well and good. I was committed to those dollars. As Ben says, this is the thing he dedicates his dollars to, and I was of a similar position. But what I ended up doing was trying to book my flight, and when I booked my flight was like at first it was 1,100, then it was 1,300, then back to 11, then 13. And so when I locked it in, I was like, okay, no problem. All in, I think it was about $2,900 for me to do this whole thing. And I was like, that's a lot for a 4-day convention, but I was still dedicated to doing it. But when I was booking on Expedia, my wife and I were trying to do it. We got everything in. We switched the hotel, got the cancellation of the other one, put it all in, and we're booking. We put all our information in, and we get this warning that comes across, and I can quote it, and it says, "Darn, we hate when this sometimes happens." This is Expedia's line. "We hate when this sometimes happens, but during your processing, your price has changed." And it was $556 more. So I pushed it into like the $3,400 threshold, and I was like, what the heck is this? And she's like, no, let's go back. So she backed it up. She puts it in. She's like, no, the price is the same. The price is the same. And we tried to process it again, and we got the same warning. I was like, this is a sign. This is just not meant to be. So I was like, I won't bother going. Now, hindsight, I got my invite at a local, so I didn't need to spend all that money to get down there. I missed the Gen Con experience, but I will tell you this right now, there might have been something, because like obviously those locations, those hotels, and those flights going to that area at that time must have had some sort of things going on, because it just like basically was like it literally was laughing at us like during your processing. And so I was really paranoid, because what happened was my flight portion of that processing actually went through on my card, and my hotel portion did not. And the redeemable portion of that was my hotel and not my flight. So I was like, did I just literally pay for a flight that I'm not taking? And luckily we got it all sorted, so it kicked it all out. J-Rod saying, "Oh shucks, looks like they were totally screwing you, Expedia." Fair, live and learn. But I guess what
Dang,
the point,
looks like we're upcharging you. Dang,
Future
hate when
tips.
that happens.
future tips, and Ben sort of alluded to that. Get your hotel early for Gen Con if you're going. room up with a couple people. You probably will never see them because, as Ben and Paul have pointed out, you can go to the same con and just never see people. But
Yeah.
at least you know that you make it back safe. And if they don't, then they stayed at Ben's hotel and probably got stabbed. So, so moving on, Ben.
Oh no, you don't get stabbed at my hotel. Bare minimum.
Fair. Minimum threshold, maybe just
Minimum
a close
threshold.
nick.
Don't get stabbed.
Gotcha. Threatened minorly. All right, Ben, what did you do at Gen Con? What were your highlights?
All right. Well, we had to start the weekend off with Legion as we typically do. As much as I love the game, I love Gen Con a little bit more, so I can't dedicate my whole weekend to playing Legion at Gen Con. So we play on Thursday, and then regardless of how we do, even if we could advance, we're done with Legion. I say that having full well known that I've never advanced at Gen Con, nor probably will I. But I give it my good old college try regardless. And I somehow, except for like one of the first years that I've gone to play Legion at, aside from that, I always somehow managed to do the traditional Gen Con 1 and 2. So that's what I did this time as well. On Thursday, we had... I don't know how much of this you want to talk about Legion.
Yeah, I want to talk a lot. Yeah, get in on
players.
this Legion. Yeah, 28
28
players.
out of 64 players.
So
Thursday.
that's a disappointing number to me. Like when I was booking,
I kind of agree.
I booked so Ben knows because we basically do this traditional thing where all cons in the last little bit here we sort of sit like this and all prattle on about who's not in the queue, who's getting kicked out, who's not getting the VIG badges, etc., etc. And I booked all my stuff, and I booked Legion day 1 and day 2 of the Heat one because I didn't want to have to go back through and process again. Now, in fairness, I immediately went in and deleted my Friday ticket, like on my entry, so it was kicked back out within 20 minutes or whatever, and it's under the threshold that. So Gen Con will say anything you don't actually pay for will get kicked back in the queue in 60 minutes anyway. I kicked my ticket back straight away. So I only got a Thursday ticket. Now, I was thinking I needed to get in there and book my ticket straight away because it's going to be busy. Ben's saying 28 out of 64. And that to me feels low for Gen Con. And I know they're not always full because there's like 1,000. I think the number I saw this year was 36,000 individual registered events. I think you could do it's like they are not kidding that there's lots of stuff to do. But that number seems very, very low for Thursday. And Ben doesn't know the Friday numbers, but we'll talk a little bit about how that sort of transpired for Friday. But 28 out of 64, I would have expected more.
Yeah, well, I was really surprised.
I've been going every year, and they typically do have more. And
totally.
For it to be 28 people on Thursday, I was actually kind of shocked. So I was like looking around, wondering where everybody was, and then we got the event started, and I look at Game Uplink, and it's 28 people, and I'm like, whoa, okay. They actually asked us if we only wanted to play 2 rounds.
Oh, okay.
Instead of 3. Yeah, they straight up asked everybody to put in a paper vote if they wanted to play 2 or 3 rounds, and that would be it.
So how would you have advanced? How would you have advanced people? What would have been the deciding?
Just the top 8 on strength of schedule and their games after the 2 rounds.
Okay.
We did play 3 rounds though. That was the
okay.
popular vote. So we did play 3. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to go 1 and 2. I would have just gone.
I mean, you could have got to
1.
Lucas Oil Stadium quicker if you only played 2.
It's true. This is true. Had I in hindsight known that my event was not right behind me, I probably would have been a lot happier with 2 rounds.
Okay, so only 2. Okay, interesting. I did not. That's actually literally the first I've heard about that. So okay, fair.
Yeah.
Go on.
I didn't want to do too much in our little pre-discussion there. I wanted to save some excitement for the discussion.
I'm intrigued now.
But yeah, so there were 28 people, most of which were very local. Shawn, I actually sent you a couple pictures a little late, but
yeah, I saw those. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can drag in as you're talking.
One of the pictures in there is like me and a couple of the local guys. There's Marvin Harris from Cincinnati. There's Matt from the Indy Garrison. He's there. A lot of the the Indianapolis guys, obviously it's local for them because they literally live there. But I was there, I'm 2 hours away. Marvin was there. He's from Cincinnati, so that's another hour or something. You know, it's not very far. Thursday has traditionally been for two people. One, the locals. Two, the people that want to avoid playing Friday. So that was basically the crowd this time, and usually it's a bigger crowd, but this time it was only 28, and I was a little surprised. Yeah, so there's me with Matt, Marvin, you know, some of the local guys from the area. So we had a dice time. It was very fun. But yeah. So yeah, we got a couple pictures of some of the tables there. So we got a couple photos in of my games during my games. I see someone in chat ask what my list was. Here you go, right here. It's always ladies' night when we go to events. We have to represent. So I brought Leia, Sabine, and Ahsoka.
Okay, I have to ask Ben as well about this this Leia model. This looks different than the one that I got in the package that I have
This
purchased.
is true.
That
is an alt sculpt.
What was the sort of stipulations or criteria around that for the tournament?
So weirdly enough, the new store tournament docket that you got for your events was not followed whatsoever here. They were very blatantly talking about, showing clocks, doing a 15-minute grace period after the 2.5-hour round before dice down to finish out rounds. There was all of the things that don't appear in the store docket, and then they're going on strength of schedule. They're not going off of like victory points or the that new system that they made for store tournaments. They're going off of like pretty much the old system before they introduced that docket. So it unfortunately kind of further throws the should events be following these to a T, it kind of throws that more out the window, because now not even AMG is following the rules that they made for these events. So
was this like an AMG run event, or was this
this is the official this was the official like AMG like Legion event. This wasn't like this wasn't just like somebody throwing this on. This was AMG. So for them not to follow their own rule doc that they put out for majors and stuff, I kind of wonder if they're if they hold themselves to a different degree, or they hold themselves to a different amount of accountability for what rules they follow and what not, because they basically did everything the way that they would have done at like Worlds or like any other major event before this document came out. So I don't know. I don't really know what the answer to that is. I don't want to just throw AMG under the bus and say, oh, they're double standarding us by not following your own rules. But I found that interesting when I was there, that they were reading off like all the rules that I was familiar with before this, before this league or this season started. I want to say in the past 4 months is when store tournaments have started this year with that new rule doc. And I was hearing rules that I had heard for like basically how an event was run like last year for Gen Con, and I was like, oh, we're not doing the rules that you put out for this. That's interesting to me. Like I said, I'm not throwing them under the bus or anything. I just found that interesting that they were going on old rules.
Well, here's the thing. You were there. You lived the experience. It was what it was. You're not misrepresenting or misreporting. And I can say that I was at a Worlds qualifier, and I actually had the TO was walking around, and I set my timer, as I always do, for game rounds. And when he came around and I was like, hey, what's the round time? And then he's like, well, we're not allowed to officially announce. I was like, okay. I was like, can I just use the game uplink clock? And he's like, that will be like set to the round, but again, that's not official time. And so like we were playing by this is not official time, and you can't know the displayed time. You can know the rough estimate of time, but I just was at an event, on whatever, July 14th or 15th, whenever the event was. And here you are, less than a month later, and you're playing different. And so, yeah, I know I get your point about standardization. I wasn't there, so I don't know who made the call or the rules, and maybe you don't either. But if there's a document and you're saying you didn't follow it, then maybe that's something to tighten up or clear up or whatever. At the end of the day, I think some of the rules that we used to go by or some of the guidelines were great. I think everyone knowing the time and being transparent in the round, I think that's fair. I think it is kind of weird to have hidden and mystery time, but if
Trust
that's
me,
how it
I
was,
much
that's how it was.
prefer that. I much prefer that they went by the old rules for this event than
Right.
the new store document. Not that
Yeah,
I
so it
don't
didn't-
love the. Not that I don't love the points and everything for the new store document. There's just a couple really weird things in there that I don't know why they chose to go that direction. So,
Right.
like, for example, the time thing. Like, I don't really understand the purposes of hiding the time. I understand what they did, like what they wanted to do with it. They don't want to they don't want to influence, play, but
True. Yeah.
I think having the influence of time on the play is more important than not, because I feel like you're going to have a lot more feels bad moments if people don't know what the time is and then suddenly get cut short when they could have gotten stuff done sooner and known and had a finished game. So that's honestly my opinion on that one. And then 2, you're going to have people let me see. You have the weird interactions of that, and then 2, you're going to have people that are like not following that rule as well. So I mean, like, I don't know what
Variable round time is
It
not
doesn't
something
make
I'm
that much
really
sense.
looking for either. So yeah, and going back to what you said about the 2 round, had I been there, and it was deemed a 2 round Thursday, I would have been severely disappointed because not that I
a
would
lot
have
of
been
people
the
would have been.
furthest traveling person, but I wouldn't have been traveling from any place close. Like I'm 22 hours via road. I would have been flying, but like I'm traveling a far way to play 2 games of Legion. And the thing is, I would have been missing a local event to fly all the way there, and I could have played more games at a local than I would have at Gen Con, and that would have been sour grapes. That didn't happen. I'm just saying that would
But
not
the
have been cool.
possibility existed. They offered
Yeah,
that.
and that wouldn't have been cool for me. And then especially, and maybe you can get to this. I know you have a whole bunch of other things that you did, but if you want to, can you just trail into Friday and just talk a little bit about what was offered to Thursday players? And then I'm very curious about Friday, if Friday was also posed to be, hey, do you guys just want to play 2, or if that was off the table entirely because Thursday went to three games. So if you can speak maybe a bit to that, or what you know and what you heard and what you were offered, I guess.
We were offered pretty much at the start of the event. They knew from the get-go that this was going to be a thing. If you did not progress to Sunday in the Thursday event, you were welcome to come back and play on Friday. So if you did not make the top cut to progress to Sunday in the Thursday heat, you were invited you could come back and play in the Friday heat. If you did make the top cut, they did not want you to come back for Friday heat, so that they could keep those spots open. But
yeah,
it's still those were offered to people. If you didn't make the cut, you could just start over again on Friday.
What was Friday's numbers at? Do you know?
I honestly don't know, because unfortunately, like I said, maybe I can try and find it, but like I said, once I have a
Was there a game uplink for that?
Yeah, there's game uplink for it, so I'm looking I'll see if I can find.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
I can only see the Thursday heat.
Like from a booking your ticket standpoint, again, if you're booking these months out, you were booking I'm playing Thursday or I'm playing Friday. And if I booked Friday, then I would book up my Thursday to be something else, or have other plans. And if I was playing Thursday, knowing that I would, for better or for worse, whatever my Thursday results is, I've never heard of getting a secondary chance. Go ahead, Ed.
I found it.
Okay.
Friday had 37.
Okay. So Friday either was initially booked as more popular or increased in numbers based on people deciding to play again on Thursday. And I don't know. I guess you'd have to cross-reference Friday's list with Thursday's
Yeah, I'm
list
looking
to see how
through
many.
this to see. There's one.
And no fault on the people. I'm not saying there's any fault here anywhere. It's just I think that my big thing was, and I said this in many platforms already, the transparency of, hey, if you want to play the second day and there's spaces, we are going to make that available to anyone, and people could do that. I think the disadvantage of doing that too far in advance is that you may have very much redundancy in people who are able to grab tickets early, right? Like I grab a ticket, I'm like, I got a Thursday ticket and a Friday ticket. And like I'm one of the first people to sign up. And then you have a lot of people who are basically just playing 2 days and you don't have 2 different pools of players. I would have been fine if on Thursday I went 0-3 and they were like, yeah, you don't get to advance because that's how it works. I would not have been disappointed. I might have been disappointed if I was a Friday player and chose Friday over Thursday, and only because I would have never thought I got 2 cracks at it. But had I flown that distance to play, I would have definitely played both days if I had the opportunity. But I've just never been at an event where that's kind of the thing. So I don't know if that's a norm, if it's a one-off, if it's going to be something that's a model that will be replicated. But I'm seeing what Matt's saying here. For what it's worth, only 4 people from Thursday.
Read what he wrote there.
Yeah, no, hey, that's cool.
I just checked the list, and it looks like 4 people from. I recognize 4 people from the Friday heat that were also in Thursday. And the other thing that he just said that was also something I heard. We should talk about how under half of the people didn't show up Friday because it supposedly sold out.
Okay.
So there were a lot of people that could not get tickets to either the Thursday or Friday heat because it was reportedly sold out.
So that would have been on a Gen Con backside, though, right?
Correct.
Like if the tickets...
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
if
now
they
in
couldn't buy
fairness,
the ticket because it says that there's none left.
Now, in fairness, and I also, just because I'm very cognizant of this, I actually had Gen Con credit. So I was able to buy my ticket and all my event tickets on Gen Con credit. Now, on the system, you cannot refund or cancel. I could not cancel any tickets bought on Gen Con credit. So I did report to John Griffin the day before and said, I'm not coming. So, like, I tried to make it like I'm not going to be there, but I highly doubt there was a lot of people in my situation who are just like, I'm buying a ticket and not using it. But I actually was unable to refund because that's just Gen Con's policy. But it says he's saying you could purchase a generic ticket at the Gen Con. Yeah, that's weird. I wonder, that doesn't sound like that's on AMG, though. If it was reported as sold out, that would have been on the Gen Con back end.
No, I think that was a Gen Con.
Weird.
I think that was a Gen Con problem.
So really combined, day 1 and day 2, even though 4 people replicated the use of that, literally barely 1 day was over. Like they would have had, 37 and 28, you said?
20, yeah. So
we're talking 65 people?
Yeah, so exactly 1 over the maximum that they could have for 1 day.
Yeah, and I will say, like, when I had multiple events that I went to and heard from other people where the event was sold out ticket-wise, but then all the participants didn't show up, and they would not allow other people to just show up and play. So I don't know if that was a Gen Con issue or
like
what, but it happened in multiple events, it sounds like, because I had one that was supposed to be like a 64-person event, and we had like 41 show up, and there were 3 people waiting that were like, we'll join, and they were told no, like, you can't join.
So interestingly, the first year I went there not knowing what to go into, I bought about $30 worth of generic tickets because I thought, hey, you know what, these will be great, and if there's things that I walk up to and I didn't know about it, but there's room, I'll use those. I used about $6 worth my first year, so I've never bought any past that. But basically what you're saying is in some of those events, had I walked up with cash, I might not have been able to get in, even though there was space. Like, and my understanding is that is exactly what those generic tickets are for. You fill spaces that are not filled at start time when people can't show, don't show, or like Ben are running from a location and are just not there. Because that does happen. So, yeah.
And I don't know.
You can't. Sorry, let me just interject real quick. Weirdly, in Gen Con system, you can't double book yourself. You can't buy tickets that intercept with other event times. So if you have an event that's running from all day, like for Thursday, for Gen Con or for Legion, you can't schedule and you can't buy tickets for anything during that time because Gen Con's website literally won't allow you. like I tried to do it for something on Thursday. There was an event that we were. I won't get into. I can't get into details for reasons, but I tried to buy a ticket for an event that I knew I wasn't going to. That was also going to be at the same time as something else, and Gen Con's system literally wouldn't even let me do it. Like I knew full well I wasn't going to that event, so I was just buying the ticket for the seat, but I literally couldn't. So I know that. So that's something I couldn't even do. So I know that it's not people like buying the tickets and then being like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna buy all these other events for Thursday and then I'll just not go to Legion, but I'll keep the seat. Like I know that it's not that because Gen Con's website literally won't even let you do that.
Yeah, I
So
guess
I don't know what-
I guess I'm mostly, and it's not a fault or a blame or a thing. I'm very surprised that Gen Con didn't even have either one of those, like, stuffed, because I've played at it several times and it's literally either no room or it's one less, and yeah, maybe the second day, this, like when Jace and I, the last one we went to, my day was like full minus one person and his day was like more than half full, and then after round one they handed out the promos, a bunch of people dropped. So that's just probably a lesson in like keep the promos till the end kind of thing. But both of those days were full, and I don't think Legion's dropped in popularity. If anything, it's fully increased. So I find that's weird. And what Gen Con system's showing sold out and 37 people are showing up, and Gen Con showing sold out and 28 people are playing. Either a lot of people didn't go, or there was something was going on, and we're not trying to make any conspiracies. The numbers are the numbers. Game Uplink either has 28 people and 30 some odd people just didn't put their name down. I don't think that's the case. Ben was at that event, so we're pretty sure that we know how many people were day one. And then day two, 4 people played the second day. I would have thought that maybe more people would have jumped at the opportunity, but again, it's Gen Con, and they probably had a billion other things booked because that's how you plan Gen Con. You either plan to do something else or you literally are booked in something else. So a lot of people might not have been able to jump over. A guy like me, Legion's my number one priority, and I flunked out of day one. I would have gladly jumped at day two if the opportunity was presented, and if it wasn't, I wouldn't have been disappointed in the least. But that's interesting. So
I was really surprised when I showed up to go just like see what was going on over at the Legion tables, and I thought that I must have been like in between rounds or like at the end of one of the rounds, because I was looking around and there was like nobody there. And so I saw Ben, he was at his table still, and I walked over to him and they were just starting. So like all the players who were playing were there, and like half the tables were not, full of people, and they were spread out all over the place. So I was like, I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, because you had 32 tables and you guys were reusing the 14. And, day two you're using...
No, we used half the tables they had put out.
Wow. Wow.
That's wild.
I did hear some people saying that maybe the second day, and again, this is just wild speculation and reading people talk, but again, it comes from somewhere unless it was just completely made up. But I think this, and maybe Paul, you were kind of alluding to this too, but when I wonder how much Gen Con's managing or mandating. Like, hey, you are taking a lot of real estate up here and you aren't filling all this. What can we do to have more of this used? And seems to me rolling over day one players to allow them to play day two would be a great way to do that. But again, if you want that to happen, that probably needs to be articulated a little bit in advance, or just even a liner, an asterisk. If spots are available day two, there will be a sign up for day one players to do that. And probably going forward, this would be a question, the next Gen Con I'm at, I'm going to be asking that question right away. Or, is that something that's going to be available at multiple events? We don't have a lot of like multi-day events, but unless they're kind of like a whittle down effect, but we don't have like a lot of like Heat 1, Heat 2, advanced kind of events short of Worlds. But I think in that case that's still a cut really down through the system. Now the LCQ versus Day One Worlds, that might be a model where that they've already kind of employed, but it's like you must play here, finish, and then we basically from that list tell how many people are going up. It's not a kind of a free for all. So, but I wonder how much Gen Con's determining that, because I know from some people who do work at own other gaming companies, their tickets and their sales and their busyness and how much happens gets reported to Gen Con. And so obviously they turn in those generic tickets, and that's revenue that kind of goes back from their game. So there is a reporting mechanism there, and I'm sure if Gen Con's taking up all that real estate, the last thing they want to have happen is have big gaming areas with limited gaming happening. Because if there's growth, that's 10,000 people more than the last number when I was going. It was 70,000. The last one I was at, you're saying it's almost 80,000. And if that's the growth, the growth trajectory, empty gaming spaces aren't going to last long ever. And I would hate to see Legion get pared down, like, hey, last year it was this, so this year you guys only get this much space, or we're gonna give that. That's not good for the game I play. So I want to see it full. How does that happen? I don't know. Cutting it down by half means there's just that many more limited tickets, and then if people are scrambling to get them but then still don't go, that's just, there's an erosion effect there, and I worry a little bit about that for some games. So yeah.
As far as Gen Con goes, we have
Screwed over Armada. Shocker.
We have a lot of questions in chat. Someone will have to elaborate that one for me, because I don't follow Armada whatsoever, so I don't know what happened there. But I'm not surprised by the headline that I see.
Yes.
The headline, AMG/Asmodee screws over Armada. I'm not surprised. Very believable.
Okay.
You'll have to elaborate.
Before we get segued anymore, Ben, what did you do at Gen Con?
Okay, all right, and then we'll dive more into the Legion thing. But yeah, real quick, we'll just get it out of the way. I played Legion on Thursday. I played Zinvaded on well, sort of. I was sort of at the table for Zinvaded on Thursday. I played Funkoverse on Friday. I played Star Wars Rivals on Saturday. I played the Scream game, which is super cool. I loved that.
Like Scream the movie game?
Yeah, like Scream the movie game. Funko made a Scream game, and it is very cool. We can talk about that more later. Or there's also going to be a Gen Con episode of Dice Time coming up here in the next week or so. So if you want to hear more about all of these games, we're definitely talking about them there. And then there was also a demo for a game we played on Sunday called Betrayal at House on the Hill. That was super fun. So that's all the games I did. On a grand overview, and then there was still lots of time for shopping. So,
okay, what cool booths did you get to check out? Like, what did you both you? It's a question to both you and Paul. Like, what were some of the next level booths?
Oh god, the next level booth, like the ones that took it up to the next level.
Or just for you. I mean, it could. I mean, for me, the Badger booth is always interesting. That's airbrushing, and people are like, bleh.
Sure. Paul and I always love the going by this Invaded booth. I go by there literally once a day at least to go say hi to the guys who they're always just super fun to talk to. And but I honestly didn't find a whole lot of time to talk to them this year because they were quite busy. Like Zinvaded's growing, and that's awesome news.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there was lots of traffic around a lot of the booths. I actually spent a lot of time around the trading card booths this year because I had some old Pokemon cards I was trying to offload.
Okay.
So there was a lot of that. J-Rod, while we're talking about Zinvaded, said status of Boba Fett's Zinvaded model. It was ready in time. So if you went to Gen Con this year, the Zoba Fez model, which I was actually the designer of, and I got to bring that model into the game, was available at Gen Con, so you were able to get it.
Did you get one? Do you have it?
Oh yeah, I got 5 of them.
Where is it? Let's see it. Let's see it right now.
Oh god. Okay.
Ben,
talk
Ben
about
is
something
the
else,
reason
Paul.
that I
talk about
yeah
stuff.
Ben. No, I'm going to talk about that because Ben is the reason that I couldn't get one is because he bought 5 of them, and
I didn't buy those. Those were given to me. Okay.
Did you need
I didn't
5?
buy them out. Chris Kerr might have bought them out. No, I'm going to give them out. So Paul, if you don't have one,
Chris Kerr plays Invaded. Chris Kerr's playing Invaded or what?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
He loves
excellent.
it. He actually helped run the event on Thursday.
Oh, Chris Kerr did not tell me this. Chris Kerr's the reason that I'm getting the Gen Con exclusive Palpatine. So fair enough. So 2 shout outs to Chris Kerr. Yeah.
Yeah, just I wanna tell Matt Matt in the chat here said the Star Wars Unlimited card game demo was fun. I agree. I checked that one out. That was a cool booth to go and check out that game that's coming out. I believe it's gonna come out spring-ish of next year.
Okay, what is this? Star Wars Unlimited? I'm not familiar with. Didn't they just come out with a Star Wars?
They did. They love coming out with those. All right, I got.
Yeah, I mean it's Star Wars, right? They're printing
Official.
money, right? Like that's.
So is this a deck building game, this Unlimited, or is it just?
It's not a deck building game. I wanted to make sure people saw that model.
That's a lot of guns.
Yeah.
A lot of guns.
Oh yeah, he's an arsenal.
Oh, wicked! I'm gonna crush J Rob with that.
As Zindu.
I'm gonna crush J Rob with that.
I look forward to your guys' next game where you get to play him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Star Wars Unlimited is more of like a pre-constructed, like you collect cards, build your own deck, and then you come and you play a game against somebody else who's built their deck prior to. The game's interesting. There's like space and ground battles going on at the same time, and the whole object is to like destroy the other player's base. But you have to kind of balance or risk not balancing your battles on the ground and air. Because if you don't have anything to defend the ground battles, your opponent just keeps attacking your base for free while you have no one there to defend them.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, it's a quick little game. I think we had the demo game, which was really just a full game. You just sat and played a full game of it.
Cool.
And we probably played in less
instead
than
of watching one.
It's a pretty quick. I did not enjoy watching Shatterpoint demos at Adepticon. I will say that. So that was a good time. As far as booths, taking it to the next level, I do want to give a shout out to some booths. Like the eBay booth was crazy. It had a giant castle like with a dragon on it. That was massive. The Everdell booth, which is a board game, has a giant tree. And it just like stands out in the
That's a
middle
fun
of the
board
entire
game.
convention center.
Everdell?
Yeah, and
Everdell?
it's
Everdell?
It's a good.
It's a fun board game.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really good board game, and their booth is always really cool. With that big tree up front, it gives like some picture opportunities for like kids and stuff to go up. So that was cool. And then it wasn't necessarily a booth, I guess, but there are some companies who rent their own like side rooms out. And I will tell you, the one that really stuck out to me was there is an Avatar: The Last Airbender role-playing game that came out, and their side room they arranged, and it looked like when you peeked in, like an Asian feeling like city in there.
Okay.
So they had like a little like hut there was their kind of like counter where you could go up, and so it was a little hut. The side walls had what looked like that kind of like Japanese like paper looking walls made out of there, and they had their tables in there. So it was just a very cool atmosphere in that whole room. So look, and he's got it. So Ben can confirm that room was really awesome.
Okay.
I actually didn't really set foot in that room because I kickstarted this, so I had the book before Gen Con even.
Oh.
I even knew it was going to be a Gen Con.
Okay. And have you read through it? Is it awesome or what?
It's pretty cool if you're looking for a very simple, pretty straightforward like Avatar role-playing game. If you were looking for a role-playing game set in the Avatar world, this is totally what I would recommend. Absolutely, it's not like the other RPGs that you would probably try to play. An Avatar, it's not like 5th edition D&D. It's not like Pathfinder. It's a lot more simple and streamlined with some fun mechanics in there.
Cool.
Bending is actually way easier than you would think. So they made it very simple.
There's a shout in here or a question in chat. Matt wants us to go over the top lists from each heat. We won't be able to do that now, Matt, because basically how we break down lists, we have a pretty comprehensive way of doing it with a bunch of graphics. This was just really to get the guys on to talk a little bit about that. If that's something you're interested in, we can definitely go do some research on that, because I think there was some interesting lists. So we can have a look at that, and we can definitely talk about that in the future for sure. So
Speaking of, though, there were a couple questions that I will hit on real quick, which were, A, what did tables look like, and how did I feel about tables?
Yep.
I think I showed you a picture of one of them, Shawn, if you're able to put it up again, I don't know. But there was, there's a table that has, a couple buildings. There were no real there weren't like a whole ton of barricades or anything like that. It was mostly just like a set of buildings all put here and there, and then like lots of open lanes in between. Pretty much that was your stock stand. Yeah, like this guy right here. There were some scaffoldings and stuff in between there. What you're looking at was pretty much every table that we played on. Like, that's a really good representation of just about every table we played on, which was very open. But there was a whole lot of vehicle lanes, I would say, is usually what I say for open vehicle, or for open concept maps. I'm like, there's a lot of vehicle lanes through here. I have more than enough room to move all of my infantry through this.
Yeah,
So,
that does look
felt like
exceptionally open.
Yeah, I felt like they were a little more on the open side. Now, albeit I have seen tables far worse, so I will not say that these were bad necessarily. And I was able to squeak a win out on one of them. Actually, I think it was this one. This is the one I won one of my games on. So
Yeah,
aesthetically,
I will
these
say
look great.
that when I went over and looked at all the tables and was just kind of like, spending some time over there looking through like people playing some games and looking at the tables, they all looked really good, but I think a lot of them were like this table where gameplay wise there maybe was not a whole lot of cover, but aesthetically there was some really cool looking tables, and like the paint on the terrain and stuff was really good.
I chucked Ben off the side.
Okay, I'm here. Whoa! Oh God! It's all going sideways.
Ben's touching things.
Whew. All right, I'm gonna stay right here.
What other questions did we see in chat here?
Well, people were wondering, and then the other two major points that we're hitting were what was my list and what were some weird or unique lists that you saw. So I'll say it right now, and I'm just gonna claim this. I'm pretty sure I have one of the weirdest / most unique lists that you would have seen in the Heat. Nobody else runs this at any events except for me. So I'll briefly run through what competitive ladies' night looks like this year. We've got Leia. She's got Vigilance and Portable Scanner. We've got Ahsoka Tano. She's got Force Push, Force Reflexes, Defensive Stance, and Situational Awareness. We've got Sabine with Situational Awareness, Prepared Supplies, Personal Combat Shield, and the Darksaber. We've got 2 Rebel Veterans with the CMO-93 Heavy and Recon Intel. We've got 2 Mark II Medium Blasters. We've got 1 unit of Rebel Troopers with a Specialist attached. And then we've got a Pike unit with the P-13M Disruptor, the long-range gun, and the Capo. So that was my list. It came out to 798, 9 activations, and well, I was able to go 1 and 2, so I was able to squeak out a win, and believe it or not, it was actually against Tempest Force.
Nice.
So, confirmed, Ladies' Night can beat Tempest Force, so whatever your list is, it can beat Tempest Force. Don't be scared.
Tempest Force isn't that hard to beat. It's not that hard
kind
to
of
beat.
Tempest Force is all your eggs in one basket. It can be intimidating to set up across from, because you're like, oh god, here we go. Tempest Force, I've heard Marvin Harris from Cincinnati, he puts it best. He says, you put all your eggs in one basket, and you either really win or you really lose. And that's Tempest Force.
Yeah.
It's like a 3-legged stool. It's super useful and effective for some things, but if you kick one leg out, it falls pretty quickly.
And then, oops, and you're gone.
Yeah, I feel like that's where I'm at with the list. I think that Remnant is a much stronger battle force in general. Maybe more restrictive. Maybe some people might identify as, but I think it's a better, well-rounded list. Tempest is, though, exceptionally fun, and even in the games that I've lost with Tempest, I've actually had fun, because running around lots of vehicles, scouting, getting into the action quickly, and I think that's one of the things, too, is that it's in the action so quick, and so if you can leverage that and get a leg up, you're pretty good. But if they have any sort of counterpunch and Markland goes down early and you don't get to play his cards and or have his control, it's really kind of a losing battle. Even if they don't kill your big things, everything's soft-bellied and you lose on the MOV side more times than not. So that's been my experience. I've played about 15 games with Tempest, and I just think that it's tenuous to hold the lead and press your advantage, because it always feels like you're only like an ATST, 180, 190 point swing away from really being, fighting a losing battle at that point. So, because it's tough to get back points when you lose your heavy hitters. So, yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're gonna near the end of that sort of 90 minutes, as I promised the fellas. But what else can you kind of give us? And obviously, we'll listen into your guys' Gen Con episode, because it'll be about all the games you played. And you've already peaked my
That
interest.
should be about
I've
5
made
or 6 hours.
I've made some some notes here about things to check out, specifically this Star Wars card game, and maybe this RPG that's fairly simple. So I'm also looking for kind of different things. Zinvaded, obviously, I mean, if I'm gonna have some people to play with, it's super fun. We'll have to get Jace in the loop on that, but maybe Anthony at Adepticon, we can rope Anthony into playing some Zinvaded, and we'll get Ben to commandeer a hotel room and set it up for us once again, so we can play on the.
I hope I can go to Adepticon this year, because if I can, and even if I don't get my Worlds invite, if I can swing going to Adepticon, I will, because I had so much fun last year. And if I do, you can bet that we're going to be playing Zinvaded. So I will have a bunch more painted up and ready to go for anybody that wants a demo, or for J-Rod wants a rematch.
I think this year we should be a little bit more strategic about it. If we know who's going, like if Paul's going and Joe's going and you're going and Christian's going and J-Rod's
let's just run
going
this invaded event.
Well, what I'm saying is maybe what we should try to do is maybe find some sort of accommodation slash events that we can all sort of go to at the same time, sort of thing. So
I see what you mean. Yeah,
like coordinated effort.
I would love that.
I kind of think we can just figure out how to get Paul into the communication loop, like with some sort of modern technology.
I think we have to get him a new horse.
Carrier pigeon. Come on, Paul. It's carrier pigeon.
Yeah. It's
The
like I
next
keep putting
upgrade
these
for Paul
notes in
will
this
be carrier
tube,
pigeon.
and I don't know where they go.
I'm definitely all on board for playing some games, as long as I don't have to have J-Rod on my team, because dang, he is heavy.
I mean, you're telling me. Sorry, I just made that happen again. But go ahead. Yes, if I can make this coordinate and make this happen again. There we go. And I made only Ben appear. So.
And now it's me.
Yes.
So there you go. That was for somebody who asked in chat what the Avatar game is called. It's called Avatar Legends.
Okay, there you go. I made you large just for that. So
it was good, great coordination.
I wanted to say how much I agree with Paul's assessment of J-Rod's heaviness. So he's and I mean, I don't know how to put this any more clearly, but he's not that good at games. I don't know, Paul. I mean, I've seemingly crushed him in literally everything. So
I just want to point out that when we watched our movie of Shatterpoint, he rolled dice that helped us one-shot Kalani. So, just saying,
scripted.
he rolled some nasty crits. It was scripted, but man, did he roll some scripted dice?
Yeah.
He rolled some above scripted dice.
And Paul, if you ever if we're at the next event and whatever event you're in and it doesn't go that well, just slide over to the old Blood and Plunder demo table, get J-Rod on the other side, instantly feels better. Yeah. It's a long con, seemed terrible for years, then boom, we tie. There is some truth to that. So there is some truth. So yes, but if to put a little bow on it, whether it's Gen Con, Adepticon, or anything, if you are thinking about going to cons and you got a group of people who you game with or are friendly with and get to go, there's almost no better kind of weekend away. So it's always tough to schedule and coordinate and spend the money to travel, but I always find they're good, and they're usually stories for years to come for sure. So we were just talking about 2019 Gen Con stories before we went on air here. So, and I'm looking forward to hearing some more 2023 stories for sure. So, all right, fellas. Well, I'm actually heading to the East Coast, although many of my family members don't know I'm coming. So, surprise, I'll show up tomorrow. Including my father,
Surprise.
who's definitely not tuning into this podcast. But yeah, so that's my surprise, and so I haven't been there for 6 years. So it'll be a big
Wow.
big surprise. So, but no, not to just make it a family trip. I'm also going to be gaming down in the East Coast, so going to be hooking up some gaming on Friday night and Saturday with OS Dad and Strange Event Nick. So that'll be super fun. There's a couple gaming stores. Aaron, I'm also going to swing down to St. John to see Aaron down there. So a bunch of Friday Night Fight connects in the next 2 weeks, which will be super fun. So, and that's part of what we do and why we do that, all that stuff. So,
Nice.
Paul or Ben, did Joe get to go to Gen Con? Did you guys see Joe at all, or
I did not see him. No.
no?
I did
Okay,
not
gotcha.
Now
run
that
into
doesn't mean
Joe.
he didn't go.
Fair.
It
I'm
just
just
means
gonna
I
say,
didn't
yeah.
see him. So.
Literally, people you'll find out like a year later that I'd be like, I was at that Gen Con. Cool. I did not see you.
Were? Wow, I never saw you.
Did you? No, I was gonna ask you too because I saw some Instagram videos. But did you guys make the long queue? Like, where were you in that long queue of getting into Gen Con? Not from your ticket standpoint, but like the opening.
Oh,
day,
will call.
Yeah, no, not will call. Like when they were like, when they cracked the doors and let people into Gen Con. Like, how far back were you guys in that sort
I
of
think
crowd?
you're thinking of the vendor hall.
Oh yeah,
where,
like,
like,
sorry.
They
that's
open
what I
the
meant.
vendor hall
the vendor
because
hall.
the con
the con
technically
is open.
starts like
Sorry.
Wednesday.
I didn't specify.
So
I
you
meant
can just
vendor
kind
hall.
of go in
Yeah.
whenever.
Yeah,
The
I meant
vendor
vendor
hall.
hall for day
I
one.
was playing Legion. So,
Okay, so you just skipped
couldn't
it
tell you.
altogether. Gotcha.
So
I sent my buddy in there to get. Hang on.
Yep.
Da, 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 da.
Yes, that's what I sent
Got
Chris
my-
in for, and he got it. He got it quickly.
Yep.
He texted me right away. Like it was not long
Yeah.
into opening day. So go ahead, Paul. Where were you?
I was just gonna say, the group of people that I go with, travel with, and go down with, we always go up the escalator to the second floor, and we always just watch we call it like the running of the nerds as they
Gotcha.
just rush
That's a great way to
into
put
the
it.
hall right away at the beginning, because it's crazy to see everyone packed in there, Thursday morning, day one, and all try to rush through the 2 doors that are open.
Yeah.
And it's always a good time just watching that happen and just seeing, like I said before, the spectacle that is Gen Con, because there's just so many people who are going and
Right.
experiencing all of it and trying to rush to get their exclusives. And yeah, for the most part, I don't want to be a part of that trample stampede that's happening. I know how Lion
No.
King goes. Like,
I've seen Lion King.
My communicator right here. So I 7:08 a.m. And I was like, so I sent him a message just earlier. I was like, enjoy the con. And then he's like, I will. Currently in the line to enter. Doors open in 50 minutes. 7:08. I was like, and I write the rush. And then he's like, I have a friend helping me, so hopefully I can get one. 8:17. Got it. So within 18 minutes of basically doors opening, we had package secured, which is awesome. And like Chris, I've met at events, and we've been friends ever since, and that's been years on end. Travis is saying if I ever get lost down in Oklahoma, I mean, if I get to Oklahoma, definitely lost. But if I am, I get to do lots of food, which is fantastic. And I met some people at like 2018 Gen Con, and we were at the front. And we were at the front of the running of the nerds, and because I was there for like 2 hours, and this was like my first Gen Con, I think, or maybe it's 2017, one of the years, my first Gen Con, and so I was like there early, and I wanted to get in, and I was like getting the Clone Wars core set, so whatever year that came out, and of course I had a vested interest in getting that because I had box art, and so the people that I stood next to, it was just a guy and his wife, just completely random individuals. And I have kept in contact with them. I met them in that line, and to this day I still communicate. It's like, and I just saw he was at another event. I was like, oh man, it's cool. And I met these people happenstance, and they've shared interest, and you can kind of continue these conversations on. So that's the cool stuff that's intrinsic to gaming conventions. So
that's one of
If
my
it's
big
not-
highlights
yeah.
from from Gen Con is like 3 years ago when I went for my first Gen Con, I was introduced to somebody who works for Capstone Games, a board game company, through a mutual friend. And I am telling you, every con since, I run into this guy every single day, multiple times a day. Even at Gen Con, I ran into him, I think, 9 times over the course of 4 days. And every single day we ran into each other. And I'm like, how do I run into the same person in the midst of 80,000 people? And we just we just joke that it's something in the universe that is like drawing us together. But it's funny just how like we are.
He's got an air tag on your palms, to be honest, but yeah.
That's probably it. Yeah. But like you said, it's funny just like you meet these people, and then like I enjoy finding him and seeing him every convention that we go to, even though we were just had mutual friends at some point along the way, and now we have a friendship because of just going to these conventions and meeting these new people and stuff. So it's really fun.
And then you have running jokes like this. So Shawn risks close body contact to get exclusives. How many exclusives for a hug? There's not enough exclusives in the world, my friend. This is why now I have proxy.
Exclusive.
Now I have proxy nerd running of the nerd runners. So so I've graduated. I no longer need to mingle myself. So
I will put on the tail end of Paul that that's something that this goes on your tips for the future or highlights segment, I guess, of your Gen Con. You will most likely, if you go looking for you want to meet friends or something, like you want to make connections through these games, there are so many great ways that you can do that. Like if you and another person are playing a demo of a game or you're playing something else and you guys just click, it just something about its magic. You guys are gonna see each other at another Gen Con, or you're gonna see another. You'll see them later or something like that. You guys will keep in touch. You talk. That absolutely happens just about every year. You make a new you make a new contact at least. I have several contacts that I've kept in touch with that I've exclusively met at a Gen Con event, and we've just stayed in touch because we just clicked so well. And there are, and like Paul, there was a year that we did Funkoverse, the first year for Funkoverse, where we won and we were the world champions. Yeah. We met a guy named, I met a guy named Chong, who is now a good buddy who we talk a lot with for dice time stuff like that. And he consistently shows up to Funkoverse every year. And he was at Adepticon, and we've caught up and everything, all because we played Funkoverse together. We met at that event, and then we've just stayed in touch, and then we see each other at that event every year. And so this was the third year for Funkoverse without fail. He was there this year, and we said hey, and we met his wife and everything, and it was great. So those connections you will definitely have if you go looking for them.
Yeah,
sometimes even if you don't.
This is kind of the driving force behind kind of the swag that we do, and Ben and Paul have done that too. That whether it's stickers or jerseys or some sort of affiliation to a collective group that that you share in kind of thing. So I was saying that again, I was like, well, we got to do another jersey run because we need to get all how many jerseys are we going to have at Worlds, how many qualifiers, and our list is running. It's pretty extensive. So. And just kind of meeting up, and you're see a sticker at an event, or we see a card sleeve on a table from a tournament that's just a photograph. That's cool stuff. That's built through this. That's a token representation of exactly what we're talking about in terms of this interaction. So there's Ben with his own wares, so which is fantastic. I just packed my jersey tonight. I'm going to show up at the East Coast, but when I show up at that tournament, I know there's going to be another jersey, at least one other jersey at that tournament as well. So that's kind of cool. So, the stickers are also the trackers. Absolutely,
yep.
They are.
That's how we find you.
That's how we find you.
Yes, or that's how we avoid people. So
Trista came over to the
Nick at Adepticon.
Trista came over to the Legion area at one point, and we were talking, and she was looking around at the people around, and she was just like, "Oh, that guy's a Dice Time sticker." And then a second later went, "Oh, that guy also has a Dice Time sticker." And they weren't people I played that day. It was just people that
just people that Ben randomly walked by and slapped Dice Time stickers on their gear bag and they weren't looking. So.
I mean, it's a pretty good looking sticker.
Fair.
We don't have people that want to listen to us or anything. We have to force it on them.
Listen, I always keep Dice Time close by right here. All right, Rock, I can still got some alt arts here. They got some more for the Christmas special. You know, that's the thing. But no, it's true. It's a cool thing, and you know, like I said, it just speaks to the con, you know, prowess and what you kind of get to take away from that, the experience. So
we are running pretty low on those cards, so they're becoming more and more of a commodity until we get another print. But I'm pretty sure the next time we do a print, it probably won't be those bounty hunters. It'll either be the original print that we did, or it'll be or it might be new cards. You know, we don't know. But
right.
I know that our next thing that we have lined up, and I'll go ahead and cool dog.
You got nice a dog there, Jace. Yeah, just
we got a dog. Friday Night Fights exclusive dog. Yes. There we go.
The dog is back.
Yeah, we love dogs. The ratings just went up, so.
The ratings just went up. There we go.
And there we go. I'll drop this one as a little view, or as a little bit of news or a tidbit. The next Dice Time exclusive thing, as far as merchandise go, I can go ahead and confirm this now. I just can't confirm a timeline for you. We're going to be having Dice Time order tokens. Okay. That will be the next thing coming down the lot. So Dice Time order tokens, you know, get that nice. As far as I know right now, it's going to be black poker chip with the cool logo rainbow gradient down the middle logo with the symbol, and then on the other side it'll have our logo, the Dice Time logo on there. But they so far looking pretty good. I just could not tell you for the life of me what the timeline is on that. Hopefully before next Gen Con at least, bare minimum. Maybe by Adepticon if we work hard enough and we get our ducks in a row. Maybe by Adepticon. So we will figure that out.
Okay. So you heard it here first. It was dropped here first, actually. So hot take.
Dropped here first.
Yeah, tokens for Dice Time coming out. Yeah, Paul's going to go search for air tags on his body as soon as he's done this episode. And I'm going to be going into witness protection program to avoid one Nick Smith from giving me hugs at whatever event he's going to show up at. So all things to do. Jace, I have no idea what he needs to do, but probably his homework. And
walk his dog.
He's not wrong. He probably is doing homework because he is on study break right now. So
that is true.
Yeah, so he's going to get on that. So, all right, fellas, we'll wrap it right there. We'll listen to the next Dice Time episode, which will probably be out before our next episode. But as I said, couple Fridays, couple Tuesdays off as I travel. But I will try to post some content here and there. I'll have lots of stories when I get back, no less than that for sure. I will definitely recount my trip, and we'll catch you guys in September. Keep up with all the things. The Discord's still active, of course. Anthony checking in right now, saying see you in a few days. Absolutely, sir. I will definitely see you. So going down there to have a Dice Time myself. So hey, thanks a lot, Shawn. We'll see. Shawn was also giving shout outs earlier in the chat that he was saying that he is much prefers Adepticon, and I will tell you now, having been to both, they are two different experiences for me for sure. But I actually thoroughly enjoyed Adepticon, both in the pace and sizing, and the proximity of like gaming to vendor hall, and the ability to just like, hey, I have 10 minutes, I can go here. Versus Gen Con, it's like you might be 15 minutes away from anything that's like what that you're trying to check out exactly. So they totally have different feels to them, but both are definitely good. So yeah. I will. Fair enough, Bernard. I will try to get some wins when I'm there. Donnie says safe travels. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. And thanks a lot, Paul, Ben, Jace, for coming out, hanging out with us. This is nice to wrap up an episode actually early here, which is great. I'm going to go finish packing, and I have everything Legion-related packed. I just need to have, like, the clothes and, like, deodorant level packing to conclude.
Nah.
So I prioritize.
You don't need all that.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. But I'm also going to visit family members, so they have to put up with me no matter what. So
do they have their Legion stuff ready?
I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt it. I highly doubt it. So, yeah. My mom is actually going to travel with me to the event. So her and I are going to do some sightseeing with the exception of the event day. So, yeah, I was just going to leave her. And
wait, she's not playing?
She's not. She's not. No.
You're not
but,
bringing her an army to play?
I am not. No. I am.
That's
not.
too bad.
So. Yeah, but if I don't make day 1, I'm gonna play day 2 of the event. Just kidding, it's a 1-day event. So, mom's list. Yeah, my mom's playing triple ATST.
Drop mom's list
Cat's
in
out of the
chat.
bag. I didn't want to spoil the guys, but she's playing triple ATST. So.
Oh man.
Yeah, in a one-off game, I'm pretty sure somebody with a triple ATST list who doesn't know anything could probably still kill a lot of models. Like you just need to roll the dice pools. It pretty much just takes care of whatever's on the other side of the table on its own. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad list or you don't have to know anything, but it just like if all you were doing were rolling dice and never moved in the game, you could still kill stuff. So, because Scout 2 range 4 is just reaching everywhere on the table. So, yeah, yeah, I'll break down my mom's list when I return, Ben. Thank you.
Yeah, we have
all right,
to know
guys. We'll have
how she
a
went.
great night. Paul, good luck with the 3D prints and making the costumes. I do hope that you share some pics with us on that front. That'll be.
I definitely will. Definitely will.
That'll be pretty cool, and I will continue to share on the Lord of the Rings miniatures battle strategy battle game page as I know Paul's on there because I see him liking my posts. Yeah, I had a couple of people just like post me like, "Oh, you're into this game?" I'm like, "Well, I'm actually just building a table for someone," so they're all excited that I might be playing that game. So who knows? It's not I'm not ruling it out. I used to own those models, but currently just building for it. So yeah,
Keep working on that, Jace.
Yeah,
Trying.
exactly. Yeah, I mean he's got armies, and we can play games. It's just we only have so much time for gaming between gaming, streaming, casting, all those things. So, yeah, and then we also have jobs. Believe it or not, we also work on occasion. So, although I haven't worked for 2 months, so. But I am going back to work.
Sean barely works.
Yeah, I barely work. Yeah. I am going back to work soon, and I'm looking forward to it, but I know it'll be busy, and I'm sure I'll look forward to the weekends on occasion too. So, all right, guys, we'll have a great rest of the summer and all those things, and we'll catch you guys in September, and we'll catch up with all our digital friends there, and I'm sure I'll chat with you guys in the interim, except for Paul because he doesn't communicate. But everyone else, we'll chat. So, all right, have a
Paul
good night,
doesn't know
guys.
what that is.
Thanks for watching. Cheers.
See ya.